Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name's Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. Another bozo on the bus. Not hear about you.
Yes, and I'm LouiLou, and my pronouns are he and him. I'm in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol, and I am always in search of balance.
A balance.
Yes, and each week we strive to create a brave space where we can engage in topics around conversations of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, please like, share, and ding that bell. And
bell.
Rate the episode because we care.
Only rate the episode if it's 5 stars. And only comment on our episodes if it's good stuff. Otherwise, just send us a private email. We don't need to air out our shit like that.
that's like how my family is. Don't air your laundry.
Yeah. The thoughts, opinions expressed on At the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. The information shared here is for general information purposes only. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you.
Right on. I got in trouble. That same thing that you're doing, where you're like, you're off script, and some people in meetings they get off script.
What are you talking about?
Well,
when was I off script?
Just now, when you were,
when I was being effervescent.
Is that what we're calling it? Is that what we're calling effervescent? Okay, yeah. When you were being effervescent.
When I was being dynamic.
When you were being dynamic, like I was at a meeting and an individual who can be challenging at best. God bless this person, but they were off script reading.
Oh, I think I know who this is.
Doing the reading, and they were looking forward, and I was thinking the whole time, serial killer, psycho, and whatever. And then I got in trouble because I was doing the other part of the reading, and so when I got to my portion of the reading, I was staring at this individual, not looking at the script, doing the same thing. And so he sent me a message later and said, "You know what? If maybe you practice the principles, principles before personality, it'll go well. And then add insult to injury, maybe it'll help you at work too." And I'm, what? Oh, hell no. Anyway, yeah. Okay.
You know what's so amazing about that is that you made the conscious choice to share that story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was terrible. Yes.
You were terrible.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But you could see yourself, which is the takeaway.
I could see myself. I could see myself. Absolutely. And with that, I'm doing really well. It's been a wonderful weekend. It's a beautiful day in San Francisco. How are you, Anthony?
I'm doing really well. I don't want to pretend like there isn't someone sitting between us.
There's somebody between
who is
us.
Almost hyperventilating, by the way. I can see he's turned red. He's like hyperventilating. But our friend Robbie is here today.
Hi, Robbie.
Hi, Robbie. Hi. So Robbie is, I'm going to introduce the topic so that, Robbie can also just say hi. But today's topic is pathways to redemption, navigating recovery and justice. And today we're doing that with Robbie. So Robbie, how are you doing today? Other than like falling apart right now, you're like scraping your hands, you're like turning red. But go ahead, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little nervous.
Of course you are.
Nervous, that's fine.
That's like, all right.
Yeah, we're a lot.
If you weren't nervous,
especially that one being all effervescent.
I think you meant dynamic.
It's the glasses, honestly.
No,
it's your glasses. I forgot you had them on.
I know. I told you I'm going to leave them on. I'm leaving them on because I realized it's like, this is cool. It's like I'm all. This reminds me how you used to wear all your hats and everything. It's like I'm all.
All my beanies.
Got to have something yeah.
Okay. So shall we begin?
Yes, let's begin.
Okay, so Robbie, as you know, we start the show asking everyone the same 3 questions. We give you 3 minutes to do that. Oh my God, your eyes are so beautiful. I don't think I ever noticed.
I was looking at them on camera.
I was like, oh my God, they're like aquariums.
Be careful. Yeah. How are you doing?
That's not what was happening. I was objectively saying you have beautiful eyes. They look like aquariums.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. God, you made that really awkward, Louis.
Did I make it awkward?
Yeah, you make everything awkward.
And I did that.
I think it started over there. I think it's hey, whoa. Whoa. I remember looking in your eyes before I see rubbing your hair. He's rubbing your leg under the table.
I'm not. Well, because when he looked over, I felt like someone threw like ice cubes at my face because they're so blue. Shall we begin? God, this is so fucking weird.
Now.
I wish we could edit this on real time. That was so, Robbie. Well, the first question I'm going to ask you is, where are you from?
I'm from Sacramento. I was born in Castro Valley, but we moved up to Sacramento when I was still in elementary school. So that's where I went to like high school and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. So did you like how long? So you were there for high school, but how long did you stay there?
I left when I was 17.
Oh, okay. And then where did you go after that?
San Francisco.
Oh, word. Have you been here since?
Here or like prison. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, we're going to get back to prison. So hold that thought. Okay. You're like, define here. Define here.
Nice. Nice.
Very good. I think Louis has another question for you.
And what brought you to recovery?
Well, the courts. I never really ever in my life thought about getting sober. But my last criminal case was the most serious.
Oh my
case.
God, your eyes.
Okay. For context, the last
Did they turn red?
no. The last time that happened to me was with Bonnie Violet. Do you remember? I was like looking up. I was like, Bonnie Violet. Oh my God, your eyes.
And I said the same thing.
Yeah, you
I
just
was like,
did it.
oh wow.
Sorry.
These two should get a room.
Jesus. But Robbie, so the second question was,
Yeah. Go ahead.
where did you? I mean, what made you get sober? You said you never really thought about getting sober.
I never really thought about getting sober. I caught a very serious case for conspiracy to commit wire fraud.
Mhm.
It's a federal offense. My guidelines were 120 to 144 months. And my lawyer said, you know, if we do this like through the regular court, she's like, I might be able to get you like 8 years, maybe. I was like, well, that doesn't sound very good. And she's like, but you know, you do have a long history of substance abuse, and we do have federal drug court. And if you get accepted into that and you complete that, then they give you credit for time served and put you on probation.
Oh, that's a nice deal.
Nice. Mhm.
Yeah, it's a nice deal. Yeah.
That is a really nice deal. What do I know? I'm just saying that like, that just objectively sounds like a good deal.
I mean, I didn't want to like be paroling from prison when I was like 50 years old.
Yeah, that's real. And then our last question is, do you what's your relationship with your higher power, or do you have a higher power?
I don't have one.
Okay. What do you mean when you say that?
I mean, I am, I guess, a bit of a nihilist.
Okay.
And I don't pray. I don't believe that any spiritual being is going to guide me through my life.
Okay.
I think that it's up to me, and it's made AA or 12-step recovery very challenging.
I hear you. Hold on. Someone just was that. Oh, okay. I was sorry. You were sharing something so intimate, and I thought one of them, someone in the studio space, was like letting their phone ring, and I was like, "That shit's so fucking rude." And I'm gonna call out whoever the hell it is. Was it Mattel? Was it Brandon?
You had a glimpse of the real Anthony.
Well, because Robbie is like talking about something so. Anyway, okay.
This was the question I was the most afraid of.
Well, really? Well, I love that your answer is honest.
Why do you think you were afraid of it?
Yeah.
Were you worried about what we thought, or just
No, it's like my experience with like talking about higher power and stuff like that with other people is most people will try to convince me to change the way I believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've thought a lot about this for the last 20 years of my life. Like if I could go back to school and be anything, I would be a philosopher. If I could get paid to do that, I would.
Oh,
do
nice.
it.
I mean, you certainly could, just not a lot.
Yeah. And so like it's something I've thought a lot about, and came to these conclusions before I got sober. And it wasn't anything I was willing to change.
Yeah. And what I love about that, not to kind of put like a silver lining about it, is that there's room for that in recovery, right? Like there are entire like meetings dedicated to people who don't have a higher power, right? And so you're not alone. And
I think one of the challenges that we all have all of us, depending on no matter what we believe or whatever, sitting here, is that we've got to get acceptance around our beliefs. Because like there are people that are like that will steamroll and try to tell you, you need to feel this. No, you don't. You don't need to believe anything you don't want to believe, but what you have to, what you get to do, I don't want to say have, is sit, like you said, it's like, I've been thinking about this as long as I've been thinking about this, and I'm not willing to change. And that has to be enough, you know?
Yeah, that does. Whenever you say, sorry, go ahead.
I said I appreciate that.
Yeah, that is really nice. Whenever you say steamroll, I think of like a Seattle steamroller. Do you know what that is?
Explain.
I think a Seattle steamroller.
Sounds like it's not safe for the air.
Well, just Google it. Google it, but do it with like incognito and not at work.
Is it something that you'll find in the Urban Dictionary?
I saw someone like just reach for their phone.
I know, exactly.
Two people just reached for their phones. Did you look for it?
This is gonna become a whole nother topic.
It's pretty bad. Well, you know what? If it's, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but it's not a,
that is not what I was thinking about when I said steamroll.
Yeah.
Maybe
okay.
I like think this. I'm thinking more in terms of like a bull in a china shop. They're very aggressive about how they may approach it, and I think a lot of it has to do like what I'll speak for myself. The times when I challenge other people on what they're thinking is usually because I'm not comfortable with what I'm thinking.
Gosh, I just had this conversation the other day with Benji because and then we'll jump into the justice system. We were talking, I was driving that day and I went by Dolores Park on Easter and I saw this guy in a singlet. It was a bedazzled singlet. It was like Borat in that when he's in the beach and he's wearing like that one, I think it's called a banana hammock. Anyway, someone was wearing like a banana hammock. It was a bedazzled banana hammock with thigh-high boots. And I was like, why are we like that? And I told Benji, and Benji's like, what's your problem? Basically is what he said to me. And like, we had this like conversation about like, maybe my issue is that like, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. And so I had all this judgment around somebody else doing that. And I was like, okay, I can see that. Checkmate. Okay. So shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So Robbie, I'm curious about like what your childhood was like, right? And the reason why I want to start there is because like criminal behavior, at least any behavior that I ever engaged in, it wasn't like it came out of nowhere, right? Like I come from a family where like most of the men in my family did time. They had most of the men had felony charges, including my father, right? So I saw a lot of this stuff happening as I was growing up. And so I'm curious about like what your childhood was like.
Well, I am the only person in my family that's a felon.
Okay.
Also the only one that's homosexual.
Okay.
Are they connected? Okay.
And I mean, you know, some people would think so.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
that's going to become a soundbite that Fox is going to pick up and then air. Watch. But go ahead. So
so I have a twin sister and a younger brother, and my childhood was pretty rough. Being a twin is not all it's cracked up to be.
Mm-hmm.
In my family, there was definitely favorites, and I just kind of always felt, I don't know, like ignored.
Okay.
I would say there's a skill I learned in my childhood that I think helped me immensely in my criminal career. I learned when I was still in, like, after my parents split up, how to live a double life.
Sure.
Or compartmentalize things very well. My dad's side of the family was really toxic, and my brother and I would go over there a lot. And when we did, it was kind of like it was like brainwashing, like just a constant barrage of, like, you know, what's your mother doing and all this stuff. And then the negative talk from on the other half of it was like, oh, well, thank God you're only half Coleman, so that you're only like half trash. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
And,
That's so fucked up.
Yeah. And so like we would be over there sometimes for,
Your dad's family?
that was my dad and,
Yeah.
and my grandmother. We'd be over there for like a week sometimes.
Were they separated? Is that why the families?
They were separated.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were they always separated?
No.
Okay.
No, they separated in 4th grade.
In 4th grade. And so when you were splitting between the families, there was your dad's side of the family was like talking about your
Very
mom.
negative. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Very
Okay.
negative. Always asking questions. We were told to lie.
Oh.
And so like we would go over there and it was like really difficult at first, but like, and I'm ashamed to say it, after 2 or 3 days of it, you're kind of like right in it.
Of course
Yeah,
you
no,
are.
It's
exactly.
just, it's just easier to like agree.
Well, it's understandable.
Well, you're a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Also,
it-
these are people.
Mhm.
These are folks that you're supposed to trust. So
Yeah.
they're telling you to lie. Like this is a normalizing of like behaviors that are not healthy.
Yeah.
So,
Of course. Go ahead.
So after like 3 days, you're kind of like right in it, and you know, like,
course.
oh yeah, my mom sucks, or whatever.
Of course.
And
yeah.
then she would come pick us up, and we were like it was like PTSD shock for like
Yeah.
2 days. Like we couldn't even, like we were both just like
right.
we couldn't talk to anybody really. And it took us a couple days to like reacclimate back to that side of the family, and it would go back and forth. But it learned me how to really compartmentalize things.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
How to live a double life, which I did for most of my life.
were you as far as your sexuality, like was that something that you knew about early on, or did it come later? Because like I know for me it was a little later, but
I knew when I was in middle school, but I like really suppressed it. That was kind of, I think, another thing. Like,
so you had secrets from your secrets, huh?
yeah. I like my experience with dealing with my sexuality. I feel like it made me kind of a sociopath,
Mm-hmm.
because I would try to plan out everything everyone would do and say so that no one would figure out what was going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I would control the situation and like people's perceptions of me by being a certain way so that they wouldn't figure out like who I was.
Right. And it sounds like you were just trying to survive throughout that entire time, right? Like you were adjusting to your surroundings. You were like trying to feel safe. Does that feel accurate?
That feels accurate.
Mm-hmm.
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 That's a good way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah, I mean,
That sounds good to me.
I like that.
well, I mean, I just don't know how else a child is supposed to function, right? Like if a child is in an environment that's like chaotic, like that child needs to feel safe because they're surrounded, like they're at the mercy of all of the adults in their life. So of course, a kid is going to do with a kid's mind what they can do, right? Which is like they're going to do whatever it takes to feel okay.
Absolutely. And it's
Mhm.
and in the short time you've been talking, it's like I have a clear understanding of why why you feel the way you do about this idea of a spiritual anything. It's like so I think that folks don't play the tape and listen or hear the story. It's like this is why it's dangerous kind of jumping in and judging somebody.
Of course.
Listen, something that doesn't look.
Yeah, of
Oh, I
course.
could give you a hug.
Oh, I love you, honey. That's true.
Aw.
I adore you, honey. You know what I think is amazing, and this is a sidebar or whatever, but what I keep seeing you doing is stepping up and doing things that you're not always super comfortable with, but you're doing it. Like sitting here, you're not comfortable with it, but you're doing it. And I think that's for me, that's been the key to like me getting to where I want to be. It's knowing that it's uncomfortable, because I mean, being courageous doesn't mean that there's an absence of fear. It just means that, like we talk about this brave space. This is not this idea of a safe space that doesn't work because we're not in complete control of it. But a brave space says, I'm going to open my mouth no matter if it's going to make me uncomfortable. Anyway, I'm feeling all warm and fuzzy.
No, that's awesome. So that's, thank you for that. So that's like a picture of your background. So at what point do you think things started to change where you started to engage in criminal behavior?
So I think strangely, I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are like, they get into, drugs or meth or whatever, and then they kind of start committing crime. I actually committed crime before I ever picked up a pipe.
Okay.
Not that I ever got caught for this one, thank God.
Mhm.
But I learned how to manipulate. I worked at a hair salon for my first job. I was a cashier receptionist person. And so I rang everybody up, and I learned how to manipulate the system into like ringing some people's haircuts up for free. And then I would just like remember in my mind like how many that was. And then when we counted the drawer at the end of the day, we would go by ourselves and count it in the back room. So I could just be like, oh, well, that was like 10 haircuts. So that's like $100.
Oh,
And I would make $100.
yeah. That's really smart. Well, you're criminally smart. Yeah.
Mastermind.
Yeah. It was, I mean, when I was like 16, it was lucrative. But so, and I don't.
So that's what you're saying is that like it first started. I don't know, would you say that like during that time, like there was a need for money and like, and that's how you were?
No, it was just, I was just like thinking, and I was like, oh, I could probably do this. And the craziest thing, I didn't do it every day, but when I did do it, my drawer balanced every time. And when I didn't, I was usually off by a couple cents. It's the weirdest thing. But yeah, I did that for like 3 months, and then went.
Did it feel good? Did you get like a high from it?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. It was quite a rush. Because I just like, I thought, I was like, wow, like no one else is doing this. Like I figured this out, and like this is so easy.
Sure.
Interesting. Oddly enough, I think for most of my later, the last 2/3 of my criminal career, it was less about making money and more about figuring out how to do it. That's what really interested me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
More than anything else.
That's what I hear a lot of times with people who sell drugs. Like it is, there's a high in that whole kind of experience. It's a control.
I imagine too that it was probably like like a welcome departure from what your life was. Like just given like the background that you were describing, it sounded like there was in some way it was this way that like you were starting to control things in your life.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it started off at the salon, and then what was the last thing you said? You said then you started to it wasn't about making money, but you were then starting to think about how could you make it.
Well, that was like, I would say that was for like for most of my criminal career. Like there was twice in my life when I was like I would have considered myself to be like top of my game.
Yeah.
As far as criminality is concerned. And I was making way too much money. I mean, like when I was 25, I'm honest conservative estimate, I was making probably $300,000 or $400,000 a year.
Yeah.
And once I figured out, once I really became good at that, the then act of doing it was awful.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it was once I became a master at it, I was no longer interested in it.
It lost its novelty.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
the act of like pursuing it was like going to your 9 to 5 mid manager job where you're just like, oh, I fucking hate my job.
Yeah. In a lot of ways it was like you were chasing a high.
Yeah.
Because once you became good at it, there was nothing left. Like the novelty had worn off.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I cut you off? Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. So then so it sounds like it started to escalate, right? And then at what point what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, so that was my first criminal experience. After I went back to high school or whatever, I came out shortly after that, and that didn't go well. I got kicked out of my house, and I was just existing for several years at the I don't know if generosity is a disposal of others, I guess, is a better
Sure.
way of putting it.
What's that Southern term? It's like I was depending on the kindness of strangers. I'm here for you.
Then someone was like, hey, you should probably like start to take care of yourself, so I'm gonna like teach you how to sell drugs. So I did that for a while, moved in with someone who was really into like credit card fraud, and I was fine just being the drug dealer, and I was making plenty of money selling drugs. We had a long, complicated falling out, but it ended up with like me not living there anymore. We got in this huge fight, so I broke into his house and robbed him. And
As you should.
yeah.
God, in recovery, I've heard so many stories along these lines. Yeah.
Well, so he had actually taken all of my stuff when I moved out and wouldn't give it back to me. So I was like, well, you took all my shit, I'm going to take all your shit. Ended up with all of his crime tools. And so started to teach myself how to do that, just because it was interesting. I would say out of all of the crimes I've ever committed, the one that probably gives you the biggest rush, and this is in the early 2000s, I learned how to counterfeit mailbox keys.
Oh, interesting.
Like arrow keys. And so I would go out all night and like walk around Nob Hill with mail keys, and I would take people's mail and then put some of it back so that they didn't know that you stole it.
Penny savers.
Yeah. But out of that was probably the most intense like rush I've probably ever had in my entire life.
Oh, interesting.
Were you high at the same time?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. So thank you for giving us that background and how things escalated. So at what point did things start to change? At what point did like the crimes have to stop? Like I'm trying to figure out like how you got to where you are today.
Well, so I'll talk just a tiny bit more about the crime itself, because that was still really like I mean I went to prison more than once, and believe it or not, it was in prison where I actually got like game to become like a successful criminal. Prison is just like a giant university for criminals. Everyone's teaching everyone
I was
else.
thinking about that. I was thinking
And
in
like,
my mind, I was thinking he just went to school.
Yeah. And like networking, you know what I mean? Like you join a fraternity and then you're friends for life.
Which one? No, I'm so I was gonna get in
and
trouble.
everyone, like you make so like I met some people, and then we met up outside of prison, and that's where he taught me everything. I really learned about credit card fraud and stuff like that, and that was like the one real, or the first time I was real successful at crime. I felt like I was, and after like about a 5-year run, I went back to prison and got out, and wasn't really doing much of anything, and so I would come see some old people I knew, and I just kind of slowly got back into it, and then met someone else from prison, that same prison term, hanging out with them, and got really into the wire fraud stuff, which is when I was like stole more money than I'd like ever, like just crazy amounts of money. And that probably would have gone on. There was only one way for it to end, because I wasn't gonna stop. And so it stopped when I was in Las Vegas. The feds had issued a warrant for my arrest, and they came and arrested me at the Luxor Hotel.
Hey, I
Yeah.
know that one. No.
Yeah. And when they came and the FBI is like questioning me and stuff like that, and my co-defendant, the first thought I had was, thank God this is over. Because at that point it was getting pretty stressful. I had gone to jail for like basically the same crime, or prison. I was in there for like 18 months or something, and got released, and then the feds picked me up for basically the same case. And I was just ready for it to be done. Like it's really stressful to do that when it's not like really operating at a high level, because it definitely had peaked and had kind of had diminishing returns by that point. So that's when I would say that's when things really started to change, was like, because I remember that was the first thought I had when the FBI came, was like, thank God this is over.
Was it when you say thank God that was over, was there like a physical relief where you were like, okay, like, I don't know what's going to come next, but at least I know it's not going to be X?
I mean, I think I was just done. Physical relief. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure I was like, I just felt very relieved, because I was sick and tired of, running around, and like, I was already pretty sure the feds were after me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, just a whole sketchy life when you're like thinking that,
Someone's after you.
yeah. And then when they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they?
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah.
So then what came after that? So mhm.
I went to, back to jail. I was in jail for, I don't know, I think it was like 18 months, 20 months. And I mean, it's kind of like a crazy set of coincidences that just all happened to work out, because my lawyer's like, I really want to get you in drug court. She was on the panel for drug court, so she like knew all about it. She's like, I think you're a great fit, etc. But we have to get you out of custody. And I was like, well, she's like, in order to get you out of custody, someone has to like sign for your bond or whatever. And I was like, well, I don't have anyone to sign for me. I don't have anywhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
She called my mom, and my mom said no. So but the reason that they really wanted, the reason why they ended up letting me out and going to where I was going, was because like in 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer, and they were like, we can't care for you properly to be in the medical facility, so we have to like get you out of custody so you can take care of that. So
this was the judicial system was saying that?
Yeah, the prosecutor even said that, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to an old friend's house, who, I guess I can say it now, it's over, definitely still used drugs. But we like hid it from them, and then I was out on pretrial, and I was supposed to stay sober, not commit crimes. I didn't commit any crimes, but I did not stay sober. And
well, you're thinking that we have a comment that just came in.
Okay.
What's the comment? Jalen writes, I'm really curious to know, were there ever any fear about being caught, or was that just a way of life at that point?
I mean, definitely like, yes, but like, so what I did was I always tried to prepare myself like as good as possible. Like I always tried to use all the security stuff that I knew best to use. If I was like making fake IDs or like credit cards, like they always had to be perfect. I was using computers, like I always used like a VPN, or whatever I was doing, to try to like mitigate that. So like it's kind of like an intense fear of being caught, but like living in that world, it's very much like acting. It's like, I mean, you're just like playing a role and presenting yourself to the world, and as something you're not, especially based on the kind of extravagant lifestyle I live. Like there's really no way anybody my age, short of like some tech, billionaire or something, should have been living like that, and they probably didn't throw money around like that. So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Can we go back to where you were talking about drug court? So you said you got a cancer diagnosis, the prosecutor. Go ahead.
So they let me out. I continued to use, for a couple I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to go to prison for like 10 years, and I thought my life was over. And so I just didn't really care that much. And I also thought I could beat the tests, and for a while I was. Eventually caught up with me. They sent me to rehab. I went to rehab which is something you have to do to get into drug court anyway. So it's like, it's good. So I go to rehab, I get out, I'm living at a SLE on Haight Street, and I get into drug court. And
can you tell us the significance of drug court? Like, why drug court?
So the significance of it is, I guess
drug court as opposed to another court, I guess.
Yeah. So like federal drug court is a very small and structured program. It's technically called the Convictions Alternative Program. You have to go to 2 12-step meetings a week and get the paper signed. You have to go to their Courage to Change class, which is like a cognitive behavioral therapy class with a therapist. You have to do one-on-one therapy with a counselor that the court provides. And then every other week you sit in a courtroom with 3 judges and a community courts liaison and pretrial and some prosecutors and some defense attorneys. And it's like you sit in a big circle and you have like a process group where you talk about like what's been going on for the last 2 weeks. The judges give you feedback.
Oh, wow.
And if you like want to like do something like leave the district or something, that's when you ask. And like if someone relapses, they talk about it, or just everything that's going on.
And this was an alternative to, say, like going through a different court system
or just regular court
where the penalties may have been different.
So the thing about drug court, if you complete it, you will for sure get probation and credit for time served. That's the thing. It's really small. Like I think the most, when I was in it, the highest number of people was, I don't know, maybe 9.
Okay.
And I would say it has a 60% success rate.
That's not bad.
It's a year-long program. You have 18 months to do it. If you relapse or like don't send your check in on time or don't go to or whatever, they'll add like more time. So you have a total of 18 months to complete the program. I think I completed in 17 months and like a week, because I did relapse a couple times.
Mm-hmm. When was that? When did you finish the program?
I don't exactly remember.
Like a year or 2 from now, or 3 years from now, or before?
Oh no. So I graduated like
It was just recently.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then like
ago.
18 months before that's when I started. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us? We have 5 minutes left, but of course, as our viewers know, we're going to continue this conversation.
Really? Because that went by so fast.
I
Yeah,
told you,
exactly.
yeah, it
Oh
goes
my
by
God.
really fast. Yeah.
Yeah, you're amazing. It's like I'm
Yeah.
all
Yeah. And so for folks listening, we're going to continue this conversation for the podcast exclusive content. So we won't be on air, but if you follow us and you get or you subscribe to any of our on any of the podcast platforms, you'll hear the rest of the conversation. So this was just 2 months ago. So this is actually quite recent.
Quite recent, yeah.
So tell me or tell us, like, what is life like now?
So, okay, so I guess I'll give you a little context. So I started drug court, and in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, and I'm just gonna lie, and I'm just gonna like bullshit my way through it, and I'll do everything perfect, and I'll be done in a year, and then I'll just do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really work because I mean, for me, it's like I kind of I really value, like, I guess after, like, thinking like the others, thank God this is over, I really value like authenticity. And so I wasn't lying so much as I was lying by omission.
Mhm.
Like, or they would like, how are you? I'm like, I'm fine, everything's great.
Yeah.
When it wasn't. And so I relapsed. And then I went back to rehab. And then after that is when things, I guess, I feel like really started to change. I kind of I didn't think I would be able to finish. I didn't think I could do it. And then as time got closer and closer, I was like, oh wow, I think I might actually be able to do this. And they were really rooting for me too. And I did it. And so life after it, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I just had 1 year too, so the two are those 2 days.
You just celebrated a year of recovery?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. So those 2 dates are really close. Graduating court was like the big thing for me. Way more important than getting a year of sobriety to me.
That's real.
And so after it, it's kind of like it's weird because I'm still very much in the criminal justice system. I'm not on pretrial anymore. I'm now on probation.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, my pretrial officer was great. She was a licensed clinical social worker. I consider her a friend.
I love that.
She's she is the nicest person. She would talk to me at midnight after I relapsed and was like suicidal because I thought I was going to get kicked out of the program and go to prison for 10 years. Like, she sat and talked to me until like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't really have that kind of support from the court system anymore. Or I mean, I might, I'm just not that close with my current probation officer. So after court, it's a little different. Court was like really structured, and like everything is like so regimented to meeting the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's all you focus on is like completing this program and getting there. And then afterwards, it's just kind of like, you're like, oh, well, here I am. And it's interesting. Like I had to quit my job, which I did not like, to go to rehab. And then I was on disability for a while. And so like finding a job has been really difficult. I don't know if it's probably a lot of things. If you Google my name, beautiful article comes up from the U.S. Department of Justice website. Was like, yeah, we nabbed this guy. He's some criminal mastermind, head of some, multi-million-dollar conspiracy, and we got him, and they're so proud of it. Like, that's the first thing that
you're famous.
I'm famous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or not. I do have restitution. I have a pretty high amount of restitution, $300,000 with interest. So as soon as I get a job, they will take 10% of my income or $300 a month, whichever is greater.
Can I just pause you for a second? So we're going to continue this conversation. We just need to wrap up the first part of this. For folks listening, like I want to ask you questions about, like, you talked about authenticity, and you talked about like restitution. And I'm thinking, of course, there's like the financial restitution, but I'm also thinking about what that looks like for you now. You know what I mean? Like, how are you living authentically now? Like, how are things changed if they've not changed? But we'll reserve that for after we're no longer filming, and it'll be just on the podcast. So
the Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth.
Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us, at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
Yes, and tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts.